How would you feel if you finally found the cure to your serious illness, but the doctor refuses to give it to you because you will stop coming to the hospital for treatment? Out of the 5 major causes of mental illness, depression is the most common worldwide, affecting more than 300 million people. It stands as one of the leading causes of suicide, with close to 800,000 people taking their own lives every year. Shockingly, that's one person every 40 seconds. According to the World Health Organization, in Nigeria, 4% of the population, which is over 7.1 million people, suffer from depression, making it the most depressed country in Africa. So like every other person suffering from these ailments, Omah Lay found a way to transform his misery and pain into melodies, crafting his first studio album. The treatment was successful though, and as any other patient, it's time to let go of depression. However, instead of embracing the shift, his fan base is resisting, saying no. God abeg, instead of making Omah Lay happy, take his life. Sadly, before 2010, Stanley lost his dad, and at the age of 13, being the eldest among his 2 brothers, he felt the weight of the family on his shoulder. His family wasn't an ordinary one, they were straight from the streets, so he left home to feed home. Coming from a Niger Delta region like Port Harcourt, una know as they be now. The only way for a street boy to earn fast money and send home was through oil extortion, also known as fire. So Stanley relocated to Marine Base and started the hustle. He would crash at his friend Starry's place, or sometimes sleep outside with another friend Isen and some other boys in the same street hustle. That life thoughtful, but one thing that kept Stanley going was his love for music. Omah loved music like mad. At that time, he wanted to become a rapper, so he would listen to a lot of foreign artists like Lil Wayne, Tupac, Meek Mill, and most especially Drake. Waiting they tweet Drake mad. Music was the sweet part of the hustle for him and his friend. They would engage in rap battles and drop bars on each other. This was what brought him close to his cousin Richard. Stanley and Richard both shared dreams of rapping, and they both had nightmares of never traveling out of Nigeria. But luckily for them, Agora Universal got them covered. Agora Universal is a registered travel agency that deals on visa processing for countries like Canada, UK, Schengen countries, and many more. They also deal on flight bookings, hotel reservation, tourist services, etc. And I want to thank them for sponsoring this video. You see, 2 out of 4 Nigerians will certainly want to go outside the country, either to study or just for vacation. Agora Universal offers authentic visa processing for any part of the world they wish to go. With their vast network and authorized certificate, you are sure to get to wherever you wish to go study or visit. You can contact them using the information you are seeing right now, or just use the video description below. It was as if music ran in their blood. Wait though, it actually did. Shebi, their granddad was a music percussionist for the great Celestine Omoo, and Stanley's dad, Boy Alone himself, was also a drummer. So they both bonded and formed a duo called the Big Two. Stanley was known as Leo King and Richard was already answering Richie XT. I think Richard inspired Stanley more because he was the eldest and he was about to finish the university, so he probably knew more about the career path more than Stanley did. You could even see some dope poems and rap quotes he would drop on his timeline. I'm not sure they released any song because after they formed the duo, their friends were excited and they wanted to join the movement. So they dropped it and formed another group called the Dope Boys Nation, DBN. It was fun. Everybody added DB to their name. DB Richie, DB Starry, DB Isense, DB Neptune, DB Omah, and DB Milo. Okay, no verse. No DB Milo. It was like a record label, but with only 2 signed artists, Richie and Omah. They dropped a couple of songs, First Class by Omah DBN, which was his first single, and Think Twice by Richie, but I can't find any of them because the websites are down. As time goes on, Stanley had to quit the fire stuff. It became more dangerous. The way military people would come and shoot them in the scene was crazy.
Shooting and everything, and everybody just kept dying around me, and it just felt like if I kept on going like that, I could just one day I could just go to.
So he started working as a laundry guy. I think this was where he met Dr. Roy, a gospel music producer popularly known for the production of the song SS Love by Mercy Chinwe. But he hadn't made this record yet. Stanley said he came for a session to deliver a rap verse for a gospel song at Dr. Roy's studio. I think he saw how talented he was and requested him to stop doing rap and come so he could teach him how to produce and become a gospel artist. At this time, Stanley was already thinking about learning production, but being a gospel artist, he rejected the offer at first, but he later came back. This was the period where he realized he wasn't going to make it as a rapper. He stopped seeing himself as one. He needed the money and he needed it big. So knowing he could make money from selling beats gave him the motivation to learn music production. Now so he dropped everything, go wind Dr. Roy, telling him he would become a gospel artist and also wanted him to teach him how to make music, and he agreed. One thing about music production is that it's complicated. Not everyone knows how to actually teach it. Some would just collect your money and leave you in the studio like Omoo. Only people who are actually dedicated to learning would make their ways. So Stanley knew this, and instead of waiting and staying around as the errand boy, wasting his time waiting for Dr. Roy to teach him, he found a way to sneak back into the studio at night and practice using YouTube.
After a long day, I'll act like I've gone home, and then I'll just sneak around like I'm looking for a taxi. And as soon as he's left, I will take a taxi back to the studio and spend all night. By the time he's coming back in the morning, I've already cleaned the studio like I just came in this morning. But I didn't sleep last night.
With time, he became good in producing beats and would invite his friend to come over so they could make the kind of music he loves. Imagine PA Street Boys inside a gospel studio. Everywhere good day messed up. He tried covering it up for some time, but Dr. Roy found out and kicked him out of the studio. But that was just the beginning of Omah's problem. An event that almost took his life was about to take place. In 2016, Stanley and his friend hosted a very dirty birthday party. When I say dirty, I mean plus 24 kind of stuff. It was meant to be kept secret, but you know I see they be with all these baby females now. Word spread out the hood, and it turns out that some people were not happy about what went down in the party. He needed to run for his life and he needed to do it fast. Luckily for him, Richard was serving as an NYSC in a village at Iva Valley, Enugu State. So he went to stay with him and lay low for some time. While waiting for the storm to blow over, Stanley began to practice more on his music production. He will use Richie's laptop to learn. Staying in a low-class village in Nigeria is like staying in hell without the fire. No light, no network, not even a youthful event to keep the dreams alive. You could imagine how difficult it would be. Come to think of it, Richie was just a copper at that time, so they had to rely on his salary for food.
That was what they used to pay
Coppers,
and
Alawi.
Alawi. Me and them, they share 19,005 for the whole 31 days.
No way.
On God, brother.
But this was where Stanley began to discover his true self. There's a way life will keep you in a tight corner. The only way and option you have is to evolve, and that was what happened to Stanley. I think this was where he named himself Omah Lay. He became more spiritual with his music and knows exactly what works better for him. They stayed in Enugu for almost a year before they went back to Port Harcourt, and this was where Omah Lay started to make moves as a music producer. This was around 2017, and Dr. Roy had already made that popular record for Messi Chinwo. So he made some upgrade and left the studio for another guy called Lai. Omah reached out to Lai and asked him if he could use the studio. He said no wahala, but he would need some equipment to get things going. With that, Omah started to push heavily as a producer and a songwriter. Love in the Jungle by Razan was the first song he wrote and produced that someone paid him. With time, people started to discover his sound and his beats started entering the market. Under appreciation. The one thing every creator must face in their career: cameramen, editors, voice actors, web developers, songwriters, and most especially music producers. These individuals undertake almost all the hard work in any project but receive the least credit. Everyone knows the GOAT Cristiano, but nobody cares about the cameraman who took the picture. The same goes for Omah Lay. He would produce and write songs for people, only for everything to end in the studio session. The artist goes around collecting the glory for the work they barely put effort into. I'm not saying that artists are not trying, but what do you think say make Fuse and Young John turn artists overnight? Omah Lay was not ready for that kind of life, so he decided to start making music again. By this time, he was already skilled at producing music, so na to carry my remain. In 2018, he started to drop covers on songs just to gauge people's reaction. He was certain about the kind of sound he wanted to create. Omah knew the industry lacked a certain emotional ingredient. His main goal was to make music that everyone would come back to after the noise of popular sound, an offering that people could relate to, something that would make people start thinking deeply about their life. He needed a story, and what better story to tell than his own hard life.
The rapper, the singer cannot beat, so keep your ears up like a rabbit, cause he goes soon, yeah. Omah Lay, Omah Lay, Omah Lay.
The covers he made started gaining popularity in the hood as expected, and he started growing a small fan base. Before the end of 2018, he dropped the snippet for the song Talking to God and Do Not Disturb. These two tracks were expected to come out with his EP Child's Play, which is set to release the next year. In 2019, Omah Lay rebranded himself more like an artist, ready to do anything to make it in the music game. The snippet for Do Not Disturb was making waves, so he promoted it with his album. In April 2019, he dropped another song, Hello Brother. This would be the song Valo heard, but we'll get to that. That song started gaining traction immediately, resonating with what people were going through at that time, the aftermath of the presidential election. Election in Nigeria often comes with conflict, and people expressed their dissatisfaction in every result. It felt right to put out the song, and people began to love it. Omah Lay began promoting the song on radio, a decision that set him at the path of becoming the superstar he is now. It turned out that one of the emails he received from his friend belonged to a radio agent called Valentine Ngaji, CEO of Keyqaad. Keyqaad wasn't a strong firm at this time. They were still working on their company and they needed an artist to start. Valo believed he found the one, and immediately after hearing the song, he sent it to his colleague Marshall, who agreed with him. They made arrangement for him to come down to Lagos. Valo believed Omah Lay had the sound, but at this moment he needed him to experience life outside the studio. They believed his sound was unique, but he needed some external vibe. In an interview, Valo said Hello Brother and Do Not Disturb were songs that came while Omah Lay was locked up in the house. But if he wants to make music for Lagos, he has to feel Lagos and he has to party with Lagos. I'm roaring on your wheel now. I'm drinking Hennessy now. Can't you see? These lyrics were from the song Bad Influence, which was the first song he dropped after he signed into the label. So it's safe to say the experiment worked, giving Omah Lay the perfect inspiration to create music that will resonate more with the whole industry without losing his vibes. They dropped Bad Influence in January 2020 and another track, You, on the Valentine's Day, February 14, 2020. While promoting the EP before the lockdown came, things were unsure during the lockdown, but they still pushed on with the release. They dropped Get Laid, an EP with 5 songs. All the songs made it to the top chart, gaining more than 20 million streams in less than a month. Get Laid came at a time we needed peace, reflection, relaxation, and Omah Lay's songs were the perfect accompaniment to the lockdown. He ended the year with another EP, What Have We Done, dropped in November, containing the track Godly, which can easily be seen as the song that made him a star. Entering 2021, although he has some issues with his first show outside the country regarding the violation of COVID-19 regulation in Uganda, the issue was resolved, and that didn't stop his fast rise as a star. His ways were creating ways for incredible collaboration with big artists like Olamide, Wizkid, Sislak, Justin Bieber, and more. Got a co-sign from an international label named Warner Group. He even won the Next Rated Award for Hades and received other nominations from notable music award events. All these he was doing while letting his fans know he had a project in the corner. But now wetin happen after now I the reason. Boy Alone might be the last time you all will hear me cry on a song on G. I was dead ass down, insecure, scared, depressed, losing my mind like I was literally going to kill myself. Omah Lay tweeted this 2 days after he dropped his first studio album Boy Alone on 15 July 2022. Omah Lay's debut is almost a perfect one, or maybe just perfect enough. There's a central theme, great production, cohesiveness, great writing, presence, soul, talent, quality. Man. It's like being in a therapy and the therapist was saying the exact thing you wanted to hear. Looking at the album Boy Alone, which he named after his dad, it's quite thoughtful to see why he became this down. Being in a state where your dreams just become reality so quickly, you probably will lose track of time and feel lonely. It could be a concept of family. He was depressed. I look at depression as a mental misunderstanding where people lose track of reality. It's either they are living in their past life or in a future one. It makes you lose track of time.
I think I was in a state of make or break while I was writing Boy Alone. I was like, it's either I lose it completely or I find myself.
It became a concerning moment for him and his fans. At some point, they wanted him to be okay and find a way to recover. On the other side, they loved the emotion he poured out in his album and wouldn't want his recovery to affect his sound. When you hear the name Omah Lay, the first thing that comes to your mind is Afro music, which has depression, sadness, insecurity, and self-realization. But the question is, will his music always be this way? Is this actually the kind of person he is? Or did Omah Lay just discover a niche that obviously works perfectly for him and is ready to keep sucking us dry until he gets every piece of it? That one we need to find out like this. So, my name is Milo and I make videos about music. Subscribe.